Hey guys, welcome to my channel, K's Aquatics. Here at K's Aquatics, we sell different and rare types of axolotls. If you're ever interested in getting an axolotl, feel free to text us on Instagram or our other socials, which will be linked in the description below. Anyways, let's get into today's video. In today's video, we're going to be going over how to properly set up an axolotl tank and everything you're going to need to know to take care of them. Alright guys, this is a preview of some things you're going to need for setting up your axolotl tank. And over here, we have some optional items like plant substrate, a fan, Indian almond leaves, and this pot I bought that you can stick on the side of your glass. Alright guys, I know I have a lot of plants, like all of these and all of these, but you guys don't need nearly as much. For a minimum, I would suggest some java fern and some duckweed. But some other things that I do have is water lettuce, some red root floaters, some java moss, and some frog bait. Some other things that I have are the lights, some hides, a turkey baster, prime water conditioner, our sponge filters, rocks, and our pump for the sponge filters. So, overall, the plants cost me $50, and I would suggest getting them off of something like Marketplace or Kijiji to get them cheap. And these hides also cost me about $10, which I also got off of Marketplace, and I made sure to wash them and everything. The sponge filters and the pump, I got them brand new. That cost me about $40 together. The tank, I did get new at Big Al's when they had a tent sale for $30, but now I always see tanks on Marketplace for $20 to $30. And remember to always get a minimum 20-gallon tank for one axolotl. And then this stuff over here just cost me about another $20 if you get it used. I know a lot of people say to get it brand new, but it doesn't need to be brand new if you're trying to save some money. And over here, we have our plant substrate. We have our little glass things that I bought, and we have our fan and Indian almond leaves. Now, these glass things are not required at all. If you like substrate at the bottom, you could, but I would suggest bare bottom. The substrate is just for me to put in these glass bowls so I can put the plants in it. And then the fan is for helping to cool the water if it gets too cold. And the Indian almond leaves are to help the water stability. Alright, so stay tuned till the end of the video because we're going to be comparing how much an axolotl tank costs to set up and how much a regular fish tank costs to set up. Alright, anyways, now that we went over all our material, we're going to be starting to set up our tank. So the first thing you want to do is wipe down your tank. Even if you used it before and put it away for a while, get a sponge, get some dechlorinated water, and just wipe it down. So we're going to do a quick time lapse of me wiping it down. Alright guys, now that we're done wiping our tank, before we do anything else, we're going to grab our rocks and put them in a bucket of dechlorinated water to make sure to get off all the germs they had on them. Alright guys, so we're just going to cut open our rocks. Just cut it open and dump it in. And do the same thing the other path. There we go. Alright guys, now that we're letting our rocks soak, we're going to set up our sponge filters. So sponge filters usually come with a little bit of tubing and a check valve if you get it brand new. And the check valves are these little red things that you can get and you put them on the tube so that the water doesn't go back into the pump when it's pumping the air out. Usually you only use these check valves if the pump is going to be lower than the water itself. So if you have the shelf and the pump is up here, then that's good. You don't need the check valves. But if it's going to be lower, I would put the check valves to be safe. So to set this up, you just got to cut a little line, but a little bit before the tubing ends, and then you're going to put your check valve just like this. The bigger part facing the shorter part. And then on the other end, you're just going to attach the head of the sponge filter. This is what the sponge filter attaches to, and this is where the bubbles also go in and come out. Alright guys, after you're done setting up your sponge filters, that is basically all the in-water equipment that is needed for an axolotl tank. So I'm going to go ahead and wash my hides in those little bowls I bought off camera, and I would suggest the same to you to wash your hides in dechlorinated water. So we're also going to do a quick time lapse of me filling my tank with cycled water. If you don't have cycled water, that is okay. You'll probably just have to wait a little bit before you can put an axolotl in. To cycle your water, you just got to leave it and let the tank run, and it'll automatically just cycle. To check if it's cycled, you could get these things called API test kits, and I'll link them in the description. You can grab them, follow the instructions, and if everything checks out, then that's how you know if your water is cycled. Anyways, we're going to do a quick time lapse of me filling up the tank with cycled water. Alright guys, we finished filling up our tank 2/3 of the way, and we used about 3 buckets of cycled water. We're going to fill up the rest after we're done setting up the tank. Now, before we start setting up the tank, I want to give you guys a few heads up about a few things. For example, if you have a 20-gallon tank, that can take 1 axolotl, and then for every 10 gallons from there, you can add an extra axolotl. So for example, if you had a 30-gallon tank, that's 2 axolotls, 40-gallon tank, that's 3, etc. Also, a main thing is that axolotls need cold water. 60 to 64 is good. 68, like 60 to 68 is okay, but I would suggest keeping it down to 60 to 64. If you're having trouble setting up the tank to stay between 60 to 64, what you can do is get a fan, like what I had, or if it's still not working, you could use frozen water bottles. And I'll be going over that later on in the video. For now, let's go get our hides and start setting up the tank. Alright guys, so we rinsed our hides and decorations in dechlorinated water, and our rocks are now clean. So we are going to start setting up our tank. So for setting it up, I'm going to do a quick time lapse of me putting it together because it's going to take me a few tries to get it to where I'm going to like it. So we're going to do a quick time lapse of me setting up the decorations. But when I'm putting the sponge filters together or putting anything major in that you guys need to see, I'll switch back to regular video. Alright, so we're going to do a quick time lapse. Alright guys, we're going to switch to video now, and we're going to quickly set up our sponge filter. So, to set up your sponge filter, you want to take your pump, and it'll have 2 holes like this, or if you get a single one, it'll have 1 hole. Or you could even get a quad one, and it'll have 4 holes. So I have 2 medium sponge filters that equals to 20 gallons worth of filtration. If you're going to get 4 smaller ones, that'll work. If you're going to get 1 big one, that'll work. Just make sure it equals to 20 gallons worth of filtration for at least a single axolotl. So I have a dual pump, which this one pump will be able to take both of those sponge filters. So I'm gonna take my pump, and then you remembered earlier how we set up our tubing. So we're gonna take our pump. You're gonna take the end of your tubing, this part close to the check valve. You're gonna choose whichever hole you think is better fit for that tube, and then you're just gonna put it in. So what I like to do is I wiggle it a little bit. Yeah, I wiggle it a little bit so it gets loose and around it, and then I push. And then I just pinch and push. And then you just keep doing that until it gets all the way to the back. So that's all the way in. I think I can get a little bit more, but that's all the way in now. So then I'm just going to do the same thing with the other one. Take it, wiggle it around. Okay, it's on. Pinch and push. There we go. I'm going to do one more time over here. One more time over here. And then that's how you set it up. Okay? So now I'm gonna cut the camera, I'm gonna plug it in, and I'll show you how to connect it to the sponge filter. Alright, so we got it plugged in now. And from here it's pretty simple. So you wanna take your sponge filter like this. Then you're gonna grab the tubing that you need. So you're gonna grab the head of it, your sponge filter. You see that little piece on top? You just gotta plop it on. So I just align it up like that. Then I push down. That's it. And to take it off, you just kind of push under and then you pull it off. And then to take off the sponge and wash it, that's simple. And then you just put it back, and that's your filter change. Okay, so I'm gonna go wash my sponge filters one more time. I did do it earlier today, but I'm gonna do it one more time to just be safe. And then I'll show you how to set it up one more time to be safe, and then we'll go over the last minute things. Okay, so put it on. Very simple. Then grab your tubing, align it up, and then just push. You should feel a little click, and then it's in. So then you're just gonna find where you want it. I want it right here, and then I'm just gonna tuck the tubing under here. Very simple. And the same thing with the other one. So now I'm gonna top it off. I'm gonna top it off with the rest of the water. So I'm gonna fill it up all the way. And then I'm gonna put the rest of the Java Fernet in those pots I got on the side. And then we'll go over some things that you need to know. Alright, so we're gonna do one more time lapse. Alright guys, so we are done setting up our axolotl aquarium. So we're gonna do a quick preview, and then we're gonna get our axolotl acclimating, and we're gonna get him in the tank. Alright, now that our axolotl is nice and acclimated, we're just gonna let him in the water. And there he goes. Alright, we'll let him get used to the water, and then we'll be back. Okay, let's go over what you need for your axolotl tank setup. So firstly, you're going to need your 20-gallon tank, which usually costs about $20 to $40 used or $80 new. Secondly, you're going to need your sponge filters and air pump, which usually costs about $20 new each. Thirdly, you're going to need your aquarium lights, which usually cost about $20 to $40 new. Number 4.
aquarium plants. This cost me about $50 off a marketplace, as it is a lot more expensive everywhere else. Number 5. Decor and hides. This costs about $30 new for a bunch of them, as axolotls do need hides, and it's good to have decor in your tank. Alright, now let's go over our tropical tank setup. So firstly, you're going to need your 20-gallon tank again, which costs about $20 to $40 used or $80 new. Secondly, you'll need your sponge filters and the air pump, which is about $20 each. You could also use the HOB, a submersible filter. Thirdly, you're going to need your aquarium lights and a lid for tropical fish, $40 to $60 new. We'll go back to the lid later. Number 4, you'll need plants, which is around the same price, $50 off a marketplace. And number 5, decor and hides, which is also around the same price, $30 new. Number 6, heater, which costs about $20 to $40 new. And this is what I wanted to come back to earlier, as why you need a lid. For tropical fish, because you need heat, if you don't have a lid, you're just letting the heat escape. But for axolotls, since you want the water cold, it's good to leave it open and also break the water surface as much as you can. But with tropical fish, they're also more likely to jump than axolotls, because axolotls like to just sit at the bottom, but tropical fish, you never know what they're going to do. So the lid is to also keep the heat in, so it's not racking up your electricity bill, but also to make sure your fish don't jump out of the tank. So the totals are for the axolotl tank setup and the tropical tank setup. The axolotl came to a total of $160, and the tropical came to a total of $210. So overall, the axolotl setup is cheaper. Alright, thank you guys for watching. I am planning on posting another setup video soon, hopefully by next week, and it's actually going to be on the Beta Falls tank. So check back for that, and thank you for watching.